Hi, in this video I will teach you how to add access control lists to the Shopware 6 administration. Access control lists, or ACL, ensure that you can create individual roles for every user. To edit your users and permissions, you have to navigate to Settings, System, and Users and Permissions. Here you can find all your already existing users and roles and the configuration for the minimum password length. As we only have the default administrator right now, we have not created any roles yet. To create new users, you can press the Create New Users button. And to create a new role, you can press the Create Role button. So let's create a new role. Here we can now see the basic information and the permissions. In the basic information, we need to add a name, and then we could also fill in a description if we want to. So in this example, I want to create a role that is able to create content for my shop. So I will just name it Content Creator. Now we can move down to the permissions and assign the actual permissions the role has for each module. For each module, the permissions can be set either by selecting none of the permissions, so the role can't access the module, view, so the role can view the module, edit, the role can edit within the module, create, the role can create new content in the module, or delete, the role can delete content as well. And as last option, you can also select all, so the user has access to view, edit, create, and delete within the module. In this case, it's important to know that these permissions build on each other. So if I select the edit permission, the view permission will automatically also be assigned and can't be deselected. If I select the create permission, edit and view are needed. And if I select the delete permission, the view permission is also needed. So as I want this role to be able to create content for my shop, I will now select all the modules that fit into this basically. So the catalogs module is this module. And as I want this role to create content, I will first of all select all of the options, as this has to do with creating products and categories. However, the reviews don't really fit, so I'll just deselect them. The next module is the content module, so the shopping experiences, media, and themes. So I want him to create media and shopping experience. However, the user shouldn't play with the themes. Then as the user or the role is only supposed to create content, customers isn't really content, so I'll not select them. Promotions and newsletter recipients, so he definitely doesn't need to see the newsletter recipients. The promotions could be something for creating content, however, I will skip this. Then the orders is this module. The user doesn't have to see them, so I'll just skip them as well. And then other, so the sales channels, if he's supposed to be able to edit them or not. Then there's if you have PayPal installed, these permissions. However, like I said, he's supposed to create content, so he doesn't need them. And then we can go to the settings, so the settings you would get here. And he doesn't need to see the countries or currencies, custom fields, customer groups, delivery times, and so on. So all of the settings go down to here. And then we have the additional permissions. Here you can set special permissions like running updates, managing extensions, look at the event logs, use the import-export functionality, clear the cache, and use the Shopware saw. Then there's also the option if the user can update its own profile and create credit items in orders. So now we can go back all the way to the top and take a look at the detailed privileges. So as the information box also says, configure privileges in details. All deactivated checkboxes are permissions that have already been assigned in the General tab and are not configurable. This configuration is only necessary if, for example, extensions are used that add new datasets but do not have privileges. These can be configured here. So in this example, we can see category, for example, the permissions are grayed out as I already selected them in the general permissions. And now I can save the role. And I will have to enter my password as well. So I can enter my password and confirm that I want to save the role, and it has now been created. And going back into the list, we can now see the role. So now let's create a user for this role. So here we have to enter a first name, email address. This is needed in case the user forgets his password, and the send password recovery key is needed. Then a username and a password. Then if, for example, I want to create another administrator, I can just activate the switch. Then I can choose the language, for example, English or German, and the time zone. So let's take the universal time. And then if wanted, I can add a job title. And here I can set the role. So as this is supposed to be the content creator, I will add the role and then save the user. I will have to enter my password once again and confirm. Underneath the basic information, we can then find the integrations. So here we can create an access key to use this user for an API connection, for example. So, and now that I've created this user, I will log into this account and show you how the admin looks then. So now, as you can see, only the modules that I selected the user should see are visible, and then the reviews, for example, can't be seen, and the themes. Also, if the user wants to change his own settings, this isn't possible as I didn't select them, the permission, so he can only look at the keyboard shortcuts and log out.